Welcome to All Out in the Open. I'm Ben Schilaty, here with my friend Charlie Bird.
We're so excited for this episode. This is part of our Open Up series, and today we have Sydney Williams on. She is a therapist and an eating disorder specialist, and we had the coolest conversation about bodies, food, and how that kind of like relates to the LGBTQ plus population.
Yeah, and I just really appreciated the way that she used her expertise as a therapist who works with people who have eating disorders and shared some really beautiful insights, both just from a clinical perspective and also from a gospel perspective. And I found myself having insights that I just really appreciated.
Yeah, I think everyone should listen to this. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think you will too. Sydney, we are so excited that you're here with us today. To start off, could you just give some background about who you are and kind of like the space that you work in?
Sure. So my name is Sydney Williams. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm also a certified eating disorder specialist. I've worked in eating disorders for ever, I think, about 15 years, probably more. And it's a passion to work with people with body image issues and eating disorders and all of the communities that kind of encompass that too, which is quite a few broad communities.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on because this is something that impacts LGBTQ individuals at much higher rates, but also it's much more prevalent than people even know. There's a lot of misconceptions, and we're super excited to have you here to talk about some of those.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is we both know this, Charlie and I are both therapists as well, and we see this a lot. Like a lot of people experience, discomfort with their bodies or really... Yeah, they're just unhappy.
Well, and it's like there's a lot of coexisting conditions. Like people grow up gay and there's a lot of internalized shame, and it kind of like mixes with other shame, whether it's family shame or body shame. And it kind of sometimes is hard to like differentiate. Sometimes you can't differentiate what like shame or like different views of the self come from being gay or having anxiety and so I just think it's really a cool thing to talk about.
Yeah, and a lot of people who grow up gay, they're like, this is something that I can't control, that I don't want, and so they then try and take over something they can control, and that can be their eating
or think they can control. Yeah. I'm curious, as we're talking about this, like what comes up for you?
So one of my first thoughts is just we as humans can't escape what our culture is and what it does towards bodies and the way that it thinks and it feels and all of that. And we're just part of that cog in that machine. But then when we add on any kind of othering, right? Any kind of minority stress or things like that, we're going to have that added need for love, acceptance, community, right? And so if I'm thin, if I fit these ideals, if I do all of these things, then the fact that I am othered in my sexuality, my orientation, my gender, all of those things, then maybe I can be okay. Maybe I can find a space to fit, and that people will say, oh yeah, they're gay, but man, they're really good looking, and so it's fine.
Yeah, I've personally felt that a lot. Even when I came out publicly, I was like, okay, I'm gay, but also I was the mascot. Like also I have this cool thing to like make up for where I lack. So maybe I can still keep some sort of like social standing. Yeah. And a lot of like feeling like trying to be perfect in order to make up for something that other people viewed as imperfect.
Yeah, Sydney, as you were talking, I thought about the many times I've been like going to give a fireside or something, and I'll like put on a suit and like, I have to look hot today because people are more likely to believe what you say if you're attractive. And I say that joking, but also not joking, because I know that people are more likely to listen to someone that they find attractive. And I would always jokingly say, well, I have a lot to say, so I want people to listen to what I say, so I have to look good. So.
Yeah, I think that is a very, very common thing, and that it's something that we're taught from very early ages of how to look presentable, and that you don't want to be this or this or this because people will not like you. And the biggest one is just weight and size and fitting into whatever boxes you're supposed to fit into. And so that's why it does affect the LGBTQ community so much. And then in each of the different varying boxes within the rainbow, right? We've got these different ideals that you're supposed to be too. And so it's a lot. It's really heavy to try and find your space when you don't feel like you fit.
Yeah. What I heard you say was our culture teaches us we have to be attractive and that our value is tied to that. And that's what I'm hearing you say is like that's also something that would be difficult or maybe even impossible to fully disentangle.
It is for some people a lifelong journey to disentangle from that, and some people never reach it because you can't escape those things.
Well, it's hard because culture actually reinforces it, right? Like to some extent what you were saying is true, Ben. Like the quote unquote better you look, it actually like works with getting like more social capital, right? But it's like this chase because you can never be good enough. And like who's setting the standard anyway?
Yeah. And on top of that, then you add aging, right? And so, okay, I'm an attractive person. I'm young, I'm beautiful. I get this acceptance. And then I become old. Or for women, I have a baby and my body changes and things like that, that it's just so precarious. And at any moment, you could just lose it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason that the weight loss industry is so destructive, because it's like, I made it, I'm here, I'm accepted. Oh no, what happens if I can't maintain this?
Right. And maintaining is often impossible.
Oh, it is. It's so impossible.
So I'm thinking like, obviously this impacts everyone to a certain extent. How many people does it impact on like a diagnosable or clinical level?
So really, like statistically, it's estimated that it, like 20 to 30% of Americans struggle with eating disorders.
That's huge.
That's a lot of people.
Like a fourth to a third.
It's huge. It's huge. And then you add on top of that just like disordered eating and dieting and all of the other weird things that we do with food. And a lot of people feel that a diagnosable eating disorder, in order for me to have anorexia, I have to eat absolutely nothing. That is not true. Most people with anorexia eat. They don't eat much, they don't eat enough, but they eat. And so it's like, well, I don't have that because I eat. And a few other things, like within the LGBTQ community, 9%, and again, like you have to think like this is a small population
like
within a large, nearly 1 in 10 have been diagnosed with an eating disorder, but 29% say that they feel that they have an eating disorder. They just haven't sought out help to get that actual diagnosis. Not to mention, when you go see a clinician, most, unless they're trained specifically on eating disorders, they're going to just say, well, that's great that you want to lose weight. Let me help you with that, which is absolutely outside of their lane. They should not be doing that in any way, shape, or form. We should be encouraging love and acceptance of the self and not trying to change the self. And so they're not going to get those diagnoses, but in their heart, they just know like, oh yeah, this is not right.
Cindy, can you help us understand what is disordered eating and what can that look like?
So I think the easiest way to kind of think about this is within the framework of intuitive eating. So intuitive eating was it is a book written by 2 registered dietitians, and it focuses in on the thing that we teach and preach every day in our offices, which is mindfulness, being connected to the body and listening to it. The best example of it that I can give you is if you are feeding a baby and you stick a bottle in their mouth and they spit it out and you stick it back in, if they are full, they're done. But when they are hungry, they are screaming. But we try to control when our hunger fullness cues come and go, and we ignore them, and it's like, oh, but I'm on a diet and I'm not listening to our cravings and things like that. And so that's what intuitive eating teaches us, is to just, I don't know, listen to the body that is very intuitive, that knows how to feed itself and take care of itself. But the culture has told us that's bad. Do this diet. This thing will help you be okay. And so we learn to ignore those things. And so from there, when we start looking at any of these things of restricting, ignoring those hunger fullness cues, eating enough to sustain life and maybe not quite get into the medical complications of an eating disorder, or getting into more of those dangerous areas, even including the mental health aspects that come with eating disorders, that's disordered eating, honestly. And some people might get really up in arms about this. But dieting is just a promotion of disordered eating, because it takes you away from that innate, intuitive voice and system that is made to just operate and keep you going and fed and full and happy.
Yeah, like to actually keep your brain and your body functioning.
It's a weird thing. It's a weird concept to do that.
So there's this joke I make. I'll like in the evening I'll be like, "Oh, I went to the gym today, so I deserve a treat."
Yeah.
And that sounds like it's on the brink of disordered eating because I'm saying, well, I did this, so therefore I get to have this.
Well, that's a very, very common mentality. And so what we've done in our society is we have attached a moral value to food. These are good, these are bad. And that's it. And so it's like, in order to have something that's bad, I have to do something good first. And so it's this exchange system instead of being an innate right for everyone to just have autonomy, eat what they want, enjoy food. One of the things that I talk to a lot of my clients about is just like, food is one of the pleasures of life. You know, when you're just eating something that is so good and you're like, oh, this is so good. Why do we want to take that away and eat some manufactured protein chalk bar that tastes terrible, but it's supposed to do magical things for me, instead of what the real magic is that first time you have something so good and you're like, how have I not had this my whole life?
Yeah. As I'm listening to you, I can't help but thinking about the connections with like growing up as a queer person in the church, even with like that super binary mentality. This is good, this is bad. And so I think in a lot of ways, like I'm just curious if that kind of leads into these higher rates among the LGBTQ plus population, because there is such like, I have to be perfect. This is good, this is bad. And it kind of just like creates that mindset, like perpetuates it. And then I'm also thinking I've had friends and even a few clients who have talked about conversion therapy techniques, whether self-imposed or by like a coach, like a conversion therapy coach, who have talked about, like, told them they're not gay. You're not gay. You just don't like your body. You're not gay. You're just overweight and you're jealous of the body you wish you could have.
I've been told that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me more about this. Who told you that? Who are they?
We need names, social security numbers, addresses.
Well, actually, this therapist reached out to me like a few years ago, listening to the podcast, and he was like, "Ben, I think that you became gay because you were unhappy with your body." And yeah, he like came by my office at BYU and told me this.
Okay, what's that like to hear?
I was like, I don't think so. But at the same time, like, I did believe that when I was younger because I so much didn't want to be gay.
Well, I thought it was for me because I like hit puberty really, really late. I was like on my mission when I started getting body hair. And I was tiny in high school. And I got cut from the basketball team because I was too short. Like, people made fun of me for not having leg hair. It was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking like, maybe I'm attracted to that guy on the football team because he's bigger than me. And that
I want to be
I'm
that.
envying, and I'm confusing envy with lust. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually had the exact same thought when I was younger. I mean, I grew faster than you did. But
I almost caught up to you. I'm like a half an inch shorter now.
Just give it some time. Maybe.
I'll get there. I'm going to eat my spinach.
Yes.
and I don't know if I like heard that somewhere and just like sunk into me, or if I was just trying to like explain to myself that I just really didn't want to be gay. I was like looking for reasons. I don't remember where that came from. But I remember thinking that as a teenager, like, it's not that I like this person, I just want to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was an undergrad at BYU, still in the closet, when in my early 20s, I went and read a bunch of books in the library about what makes you gay, and that was one of the things that was said. So that this really isn't like a fringe thing.
Right.
No.
And well, think about that, what that does to this like intuitive listening to your body concept, because I feel like that mindset or that dogma, I guess, engenders a poor relationship with your body. Like, how are you going to feel comfortable? Like, how are you going to even want to honor or listen to your body if you hate it?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also being told that you're too small or fat and ugly. And
right. And
like
you're
that.
like,
Yeah.
it like, again, like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, what is the ideal body image? No one fits it.
No.
Very interesting.
Well, and the thing that's like, even just discussing some of just the society's greater things, like me as a heterosexual woman, no one would ever come up to me and say something like that. They would never say like, oh, you are attracted to him because that's something that you want to be. And I mean, maybe if it was like that, I had gender dysphoria or things like that, that maybe they would say those things, but that's not something that we say to people who fit in the norm. It's just a way to make you feel bad for not fitting in the box.
Like it's your body's fault that you're gay.
Yeah, because you are whatever.
Because your body's not good enough for me.
Yeah.
Right?
That sucks.
That totally
It
sucks.
sucks big time.
So I want to think about like the listener right now who might think about that or worry about it. Like I wish you were here, listener, because I just want to be like, well, first of all, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And I just am curious, like what is someone like feeling right now as they're hearing this? Because it also it's weird. And sometimes when I've like had unhealthy beliefs that I've really grasped onto because I thought they would save me, it's been really hard to be checked on those. And so like this might be really hard for people to hear, like your perfectionism isn't working. Controlling your food isn't going to make you love yourself more. It's not going to actually make you belong or be straight or any of these things. Like that could be really rocking and jarring for someone who it's almost like your last resort is for that to work. Right.
Well, and most people, when they're in that phase, they go into that space of, I totally agree with you, Sydney. Like, yes, for everyone else but me.
For sure. Yeah.
And so it's just something that I just say, okay, let's just let that sink in and just know that you've heard it. And that if you want to explore that space, you can. And when you feel that you're ready, you can. And then if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And that's okay. I'm not usually wrong, though.
Well, you're an expert. Where does that come from? Like, this is fine for everyone else but me. Because that's another thing I see all the time. It's like, being gay is fine and I support gay marriage, but not me. I could never do that. I have to be miserable or whatever. Like there's this like this self-abandonment feels moral.
Part of it is because it's safety within the framework of what you know. Right? And so if I say, oh no, that person, I'm actually attracted to them instead of like, oh, I want to look like them, then I'm stepping outside of what is safe within my own beliefs, my family system, my religious culture, my family culture, all of those things. And you're risking a lot, which both of you did. You've risked a lot. And so being able to say like, no, conversion therapy, I get why it's bad for everyone else. Like they should just go live their lives how they are, but like it's going to work for me.
I'm the exception.
I'm the exception because in our minds, it has to be that way. It has to be because I don't know what to do if I don't have that.
How come we're never the exception in the good way? Like, why aren't we the exception to being compassionate and loving? We're always like, it's like, I'm the exception. I'm ugly. I'm not good enough. I'm the worst. Nobody loves me. How come, like, why can't we tell ourselves a better lie? Like, I'm the exception because I'm 1 in a million. I'm it. I'm the superstar.
I think there's a few things. And so, first of all, we are born with that. You look at a small child. So I have a 4-year-old son.
Okay.
He is insane and destructive and brilliant and like could just dismantle this whole room because he's so curious. He is invincible in his brain because I haven't told him yet that he's not.
Oh.
And that's what we have to think about is like, eventually we hear, this is bad. You can't do this. Be careful.
Okay, so you haven't told him yet.
Yeah, that, just we as parents, we haven't told them yet. And I try to be very cautious with the wording that I use of, oh, be careful with my guy. Be soft with yourself and things like that instead of, stop that, don't do that, knock that off, get out of there. And that I try to encourage the curiosity and things like that. But that's really the reality is all of us were told, stop, don't be that, this is bad.
Curiosity becomes dangerous.
Yeah.
And our brains are wired to keep us safe. And if something is danger, it will throw up the alarm.
Yeah.
And as much as you're trying to protect your son, he's going to encounter other people in the world who are going to point out.
And I don't like those
things.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That will say he's too much. You need to medicate him. You need to do blah, blah, blah. And I just want to be like, just be free, buddy. Just be free. And then other times I want to say, stop it.
Oh my gosh.
Stop it.
That's our new couch.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's it. It's like it just changes from that invincibility of like, I too can jump off the couch and fly like Superman. Or like when I was a kid, I literally thought, if I have enough faith, I can walk on the water like Jesus. I tried it. It didn't happen. It was devastating.
That's really cute.
I know, right? I was like, I was adorable. But like, I really thought that at a swimming pool, I was like, I won't be Thomas. I will do this. And it didn't happen.
It was Peter, but
oh, yeah.
yeah.
No, that was Doubting Thomas was in my head.
Yeah.
I became a Doubting Thomas after that. Thank you for fact checking me on that. But yeah, like you think those things and it doesn't even cross your mind of, no, I can't. But then you hear and you learn and then you see like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I have this inside of me and they don't like that.
Well, and it is a fine line too, because like my nieces and nephews just like jump off everything, and someone catches them, and like they haven't been dropped yet, but we're always like, oh my gosh, stop jumping off things, like you're gonna get hurt. So interesting.
Yeah, as we're talking, I've been like reviewing in my mind the times that I have been like unhappy with my body and how I have handled that. And I was thinking like just this week, I have been so busy. And my goal is to go to the gym 0 to 4 times a week, because that way
I love the 0.
It's good.
Yeah,
Nice. Isn't that nice?
That way I always make it.
You are so good at reaching your goals.
I always make my goal every week. But a few weeks ago, like I'd had like a really busy day, and then it was like 11 p.m. and I hadn't like made it to the gym that day. I was like, I'm going to go to the gym. And I went, and I couldn't sleep because I was all hyped up. And I regretted that. And then I've been really busy this week, and I thought, well, I'm just not going to go this week. It'll be a 0 week.
Yeah.
But still, there's that part of me that's like,
I'm bad.
Judging.
yeah.
Yeah.
And instead I want to like give myself the self-talk of, you are taking care of yourself and you're spinning a lot of plates, and you don't have to spin that plate this week.
Can I ask if like being in the dating pool causes that, like, you're bad, you should be doing this to ramp up?
I've been thinking about as you guys have been talking.
Yeah.
And I'm the youngest in my family, and my 2 older brothers were basketball stars, and they were like really buff and athletic, and I was not an athletic child. I was very scrawny. But now they're busy adults with children, and so like a few years ago I went home, my brother was like, your arms are huge, and I was like, thank you.
These old things.
Yeah. And I was like, yes, scrawny Ben is so strong now, and I'm like, I'm going home in a few weeks, and I was like,
I have to look good
yes,
for the family.
Yes, and like, and I had that thought.
Well, the validation.
And I was like, no, but that's like, I don't want to like lose sleep now, so I might get a compliment from my brother. That's just stupid.
I'll text your brother and tell him to compliment you.
Thank you.
You can just do like the contouring with like a self tanner to just really accentuate it.
Yeah, yes.
You can't though. I'd have to help him.
It's true. I would need help.
Do it.
I'm spinning too many plates.
Yeah, but you asked about dating, and it's true, you know, and because I've already got the added stigma of being 40. I mean, it's true. So, there are a lot of people who don't want to date a 40-year-old. So I want to be as the best I can in other ways, and there's something that's really bad about trying to get a man to like you, like trying to attract men. I think it just is bad for our brains.
Well, I'm thinking about, so when I was in college and I was Cosmo, I really liked my body a lot.
Well, yeah.
And well, not only was I in great shape, but it was just fun. Like my body, like I would put the suit on and then I could do things. I was flexible. I was strong. I was still really skinny, but like I could dance. Like it just worked for me. And then right after I graduated, like at the top of my physical fitness A game, I moved to New York City and I started dating. And then immediately I was like, oh my gosh, I'm too small. I'm not good enough. I'm unattractive, because I was like worried about pulling someone hot, because for multiple, like, oh my gosh, it's just all these layers were happening. Cause it's like, if I am dating a man, they better be really attractive, so everyone else who judges me can be like, well, at least he's hot.
Yeah, at least
right?
you got somebody really attractive.
And on top of that, like I'm just in a huge city with like gay men have poor body image often. And so it's these like bodybuilders on dating apps and people who are like literally models at the gym. And it's just so interesting as I'm thinking about this, my body image went from, I didn't even think about my body, to like 2 weeks later being like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me. Like I need to take creatine. I need to be in the gym more. Like got to get the membership. Yeah. That's sad.
It is. Let me throw some research at you.
Oh my gosh, do it.
Let's do it.
We won't dodge it. We'll let it.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things that's interesting is that people who do move their bodies have better body image. Even if you take somebody who, you know, I've gone to the gym for a week and that's it, and they've had fun and they've enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. They've enjoyed moving their body and using it as an instrument in different ways. Their body image is better and their weight has not changed. Yeah. Nothing has changed. But being able to have that fun, intuitive movement, which was all that Cosmo
That's what it is. It's just like ADHD runs free. There's like you're expected to like jump on people and jump off things and break something. It's like, oops, Cosmo broke it. Right?
Yep. It's like,
I broke a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what my son needs to do. He needs to be Cosmo.
Just put him in tumbling.
Yeah.
He'd be adorable.
Well, Sydney, what do you do? Like, what ways do you like to move your body?
I like yoga, especially when I like need to like chill and be calm. I like running. I got a new bike for my birthday, and so like I just like moving my body. But I love to hike. I love to be out in nature and things like that. But the biggest thing for me is like I do it for a few reasons. I'm an older mom, according to Utah standards. I have very small children, and I'm in my 40s, and my kids are really young, and I want to be able to play with them. And so I would say that's my ultimate favorite way to move my body, is to just play with them.
That's a beautiful motivator.
It is.
It's not like I need to be hot for my husband or
you know
to
what?
look
Screw
like
him
the
if he
younger
says
moms, right?
Yeah. No, because I can't keep up with that. I'm in a different phase of life than these younger moms that have kids the same age as my kids. Like, it just, I have to do it for what brings me joy. Mm-hmm. And so some people hate running. Sometimes I hate running. Sometimes I love it.
I hate running. I hate it. I don't do it anymore.
Well, it's like the only time I actually watch TV is when I turn on the TV, because my kids are asleep still and I can go in my basement, run on my treadmill and watch TV. And so that's probably the actual motivation for it, is like, I'm going to watch some show. But yeah, it's very, very different. But most people have this thought of like, if I'm not in pain or sweating or things like that, I can't.
Like I'm not working out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting hotter.
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of athletes, people who played like basketball in college and things like that. And trying to get them to shift their mentality about working out and actually heal their relationship with movement is really hard, because if I say, go to the gym, join a, yoga class or Pilates or something like that, they're like, that I'm not sweating enough. Like, I need to be running ladders. I need to be doing this and this and this. Like, we're not talking about building muscle and sacrificing for the team. We're talking about moving your body and having joy in it.
Mm-hmm. Do you follow Ilona Mar?
I don't.
She's awesome. She's
I should.
She was a rugby player and she's on Dancing with the Stars right now.
Yes, no,
she's like killer, and she just has like this big muscular body. And I just saw a video that she put up, and someone was like, "You're obese with your BMI of this," and I don't remember, but she's like, "Actually, my BMI is over that." Mm-hmm. And I went to the Olympics and you didn't. Mm-hmm. It just like, she's like, my body's different.
Yeah.
And this is the way I like to move. And I just think it's cool. Yeah. It reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't know how to pronounce her name. So
Ilona Mar.
like, I don't know that. But okay, no, she's awesome.
So we should move in ways that bring us joy.
Yeah.
That are fun.
That's good to hear. Mm-hmm. I need to do that more, because I don't have, like, I miss cheer a lot, and that's probably why, because now I just like lift, and I don't like lifting weights. It's not fun for me.
Oh, you need to lift a human.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what you like to do.
So I'm thinking of two other ways that like body image intersects with specifically the gay male community that I've noticed. One is I read this like fascinating kind of like research / social hypothesis about the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and 90s, and how gay male body image really changed as that was happening. And I think I talked to you about it once.
Yeah.
But essentially it was saying that when so many gay men were dying of AIDS, having like a weak looking body made you unattractive. Like, nobody wanted to date someone or be in a relationship with someone who was going to die next month. Mm-hmm. And so there was kind of like this counterculture of gay men on top of trying to look masculine and like being able to protect yourself against
Yeah.
hate crime, also being big, like just physically bigger to show, like prove that you're healthy. And I just think that's just so devastating. Like the way, listener, that you might be comparing yourself to someone is actually rooted in like oppression and disease and like the most tragic thing. And like your body is actually okay and you are lovable. Like your spirit, your soul, your body is lovable. It doesn't have to look like you're not dying of AIDS to find like that's just not it anymore. It just made me so sad.
It is. It's really, really sad. And it's interesting because like that's almost a like protective thing that our brains have done. And it was even like back in the 1800s and things like that. Women's bodies were considered to be more attractive when they were more rotund,
When they looked like they would live longer. Yeah.
And because it was a health thing, and it also looked like they had money because they weren't out working in the fields and skinny and things like that. And so that was more attractive. And so it's interesting how the brain kind of works in that. Going back to some of the research though, is that gay males have the aesthetic and that they're supposed to fit into more than any other subgenre of people and things like that. That gay males, that thin, muscular, they usually describe it as lean. So lean and muscular body type is very specific. It's the only one in any of the research. So women, it's just like thin and different populations, right? But like gay men, it's very specific. And if you don't fit that, you are othered again by other gay
well, there's
males.
also classifications based on like different bodies. Like, are you this type of person or this type? And I don't want to get into it because it's kind of like not, I don't know. I just don't want to support it. But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just like, why do we do that to each other?
Well, again, we like to classify, and there's always a hierarchy. And so that lean muscular is the gold standard. But then we create these subgenres of like, we're number
lean,
one.
Muscular, hairy. You're lean, muscular, short. Or,
Yep. And then we just create these different subgenres. And I think it's a protective thing we do as humans.
People find belonging there too. It's like, I'm this. Like, this is who I am. This is...
Yeah, I can fit in with this subgenre. And we're fine. And we look at the people up there and be like, ugh, we don't want to be like that.
Yeah. Do you have a thought?
No.
Because I have two more.
Go with your thoughts.
Okay, my next one is that like pornography use is so prevalent, especially among gay males. And I mean, I am a gay male, so I know more about it. And typically that's the demographic that I'm working with.
And the research supports that.
Yeah.
It's the highest pornography.
And so I also don't want to like leave out other identities, but and so often it's because like it's the quote unquote safest way to explore attraction, because you can't go on a date with someone, you can't tell your mom who you have a crush on. It's like, am I actually gay? Well, I better find out. And then it pulls into this like compulsive pornography. It happens all the time. And also that's like learning about how to be gay from like dramatized sex and bodies. Right. And so I think that also plays into this, like, I have to look a certain way in order to have a relationship. I have to perform. I have to have the right hair color or jawline, or even things that are like, even if you can change your weight or your muscles, it's like, you need a different nose. You actually need a different shaped face. And I'm just like, this is horrible.
It's never ending.
And then the other thing I was thinking of is that in a same-sex relationship, there's a direct comparison to somebody else's body. Like me with my husband, like he has bigger pectoral muscles than I do. And like, that is just very obvious. And I think it just opens up for so much more direct comparison and being able, like, feeling insecure or not good enough based on any part of the body, which is just supposed to be the thing that moves you from joyful experience to joyful experience.
Yeah. You just mentioned a problem, like these comparisons in relationships. What do you do with that?
Well, I'm just like, I like your pecs, Ryan.
So it is that you're gay because you want to look like him.
Yeah, we came full circle. No, I mean, we've talked about it, and if either of us has been insecure about something, we have a discussion, and we actually love each other's hearts. Like, My love for
Yeah.
him goes so far beyond, like, I'm very attracted to him. I think he's incredibly beautiful and interesting to look at, but that's not why I fell in love with him. And so I think we just communicate through that, and it just isn't a thing anymore. And like, I noticed that my body changes, not drastically, and his does too, but just like based on what we're eating, when we're traveling, a bunch of different things. There's like fluctuations and how quote unquote good we look. And it doesn't feel like a thing because we are in love. Well,
and I think that's one of the biggest things that I use when talking to my clients is like, yes, you will get validation. You will say, I got asked out way more when I was in my eating disorder or when I was dieting hardcore and all of these things. But the bottom line is if Ryan loved you just because of the way that your body looks, is that somebody that you would want to date? Is that somebody that you want? It's not.
Right.
It's not. And so that we can immediately take all of those voices out of, I wouldn't trust what they're saying about somebody else that I love. Why am I trusting them about me and the way that I look? And that we as humans, yes, we have that initial attraction, but attraction goes so much deeper. And we all know those people where we're like, oh, you are so good looking, right? And then they open their mouths and you're
and
like,
it's like, ew.
Yeah. You get the ick, right? Where you're like, I'm out. Like, how did you go from like, dang,
I was on a
to
date
like
once
hard
with
pass?
He was Adonis. He was like the picture of male attractiveness. And I was like, this is horrible. Like,
You're
so
too pretty. You need some hard
uninteresting.
things in life to rough you up a bit
Right.
and make you interesting.
But yeah, like, it's true.
And yet every person is interesting.
Except that hot guy.
Except that one.
Once.
Except
It's like,
Adonis.
this is not a match. Like, it doesn't matter how attractive you are. Like, that doesn't spark love. But I think going back to that, like, early exposure or like habitual pornography use, that can kind of create this false scenario.
This is what I'm supposed
where
to
like
have.
sex is relationship, bodies are relationship, not souls. And that's sad.
It is sad. And then when you look at that and you talk about it openly with people who are like, well, of course I love them for who they are. I don't care how big they are. I don't care how small or how they look and all of that. It's like, well, people offer you that same grace too.
Yeah.
That you are loved and enough for other people. It's just in our own heads, we're not fitting the ideal. And so we feel like we'll never find that acceptance when you can easily.
I compare people to dogs a lot, and like, it sounds horrible, but it's in the best way. Cause I'm like, what if your dog was overweight? Like, would you scream at it and kick it? They're like, no, of course not. I love my dog. My dog's perfect. He's just a good boy. And I was like, so are you.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, why are we so mean to ourselves?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So how do we start to disentangle this, Sydney? Like, what do we do if we're being mean, we're judging ourselves, like we're unhappy with our bodies? Like, you've talked about how this is such a normal human thing.
Yeah.
What are some ways we can move forward?
So I think there's a myriad of things that you can do. But one of my favorites is to look at the things in your life that you're doing that you actually hate, like running. And I just say, stop running. Just stop. Just stop doing it. And that can blow people's mind. But then what could happen? Well, you might be happier. And you might find space for movement that you really enjoy that could help your overall health, mental and physical, better than just, I need to punish myself. And so looking at the things that we do, is this bringing me joy? Is this making me happy? Am I having fun?
Do I love myself while I do this?
Yeah. Is it being fueled out of love? Or is it being fueled out of self-loathing?
Or fear versus faith.
Yeah. And so being able to kind of shift that to this space of, can I find that peace and happiness in these things? And am I allowed to stop doing it? And sometimes you have to kind of titrate it down of like, okay, we're going to change our goal from, I go to the gym 6 days a week to I go 0 to 4 times, right? That we just shift some of these mentalities, but also recognizing that we as humans are innately good. We start out good. There might be a few bad apples here and there, but that we're all just trying to find a place, and you can find your place, but it's really hard to find your place when you're, an orange trying to jump into an apple barrel and say like, look at me as an apple. You just got to be yourself.
When you self-abandon to find that belonging. It's never going to feel like belonging.
Never works.
Because even if someone loves your eating disorder, they don't love you.
No.
Like, I love the way your body looks. Like, that's not going to be fulfilling.
No.
It's just not.
And it's also not sustainable.
It's so conditional.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like pulling in a religious or spiritual perspective. I'm just thinking, like, how could this not be such a prevalent problem? Because if our bodies are so important, like, and like, I have a belief that, of course, the adversary would try to twist what this looks like. Because even I'm just thinking about like how emotions are so body centric, and like, like your gut feeling, your intuition, this is so part of like understanding and trusting your body. And like, when you're self-abandoning, when you're with the wrong person, when you need to take that courageous leap, but if you don't have a relationship with your body, that makes it harder. It like clouds the system. It's harder to connect with that intuition, that gut, those like even promptings. And I feel like so much of the revelation I have received is like through my body, through like those gut feelings, those promptings, intuitions. And so I just think it makes sense that the adversary, in order to chain us, would take the joy out of our movement, make us not like or trust our bodies, because he doesn't want us to do good things. He doesn't want us to move from good experience to good experience.
Yeah.
And we are that we might have joy. And like, truly, I just believe that the way we view our bodies and food limits joy, or can limit joy. And it's devastating.
Absolutely. Do you want to hear the doctrine according to Sydney?
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's do this. So, 200 years ago, as the pioneers are coming across the plain, like, the trials and tribulations are bearing your babies and doing all of those things that are just horrific and hard, and like, are wolves gonna come in the
like
night
walking
and stuff
in boots that are too small
and made of leather,
like gross leather.
Where's my Dr. Scholl's, right? Like, none of that.
Not a good time to have foot problems.
Exactly. My plantar fasciitis is just really
That was the word I was trying to remember. I was like, what is that word?
There you go. I got you. But now my 4-year-old son that I was talking about, he's a twin. They were born 6 weeks early. They wouldn't have survived back then, but they were in a NICU with a feeding tube, and they did great and amazing. And it's just not a stress that I had to worry about. But then you look at where we are in the times and the season of life and this earth and everything like that, and you think, what is God's greatest gift to all of us? It was our body. That is the pinnacle. I mean, okay, we got Jesus and then our body, but that was part of the path, right? Is this body was the gift. And when you look in the Bible, and it's talking about the time that there were devils possessing people and Jesus cast them out, and they begged to go into the bodies of swine because they didn't have a body. And so how powerful is that if the adversary can make us hate the one gift that gets us back to God? And so that's where I just go of like, of course, it's so simple, it's so easy, and it's so devious and masterful to just make us hate this beautiful gift because I have stretch marks, or I'm not 18 anymore, or different things like that. And so that's my doctrine.
Yeah. And hearing that, it almost, like, I'm relating it more to like a system of oppression, because like everything you just said was how I used to view my orientation, or how some people view their gender. Like I really believe that the adversary will take some like innate beautiful part of us and just try to make us hate it, because it's a gift that can be used to serve and beautify. And I actually like keep covenants, like multiply, replenish the earth, like create charity, serve. And it's like, of course he would oppress this too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it keeps us from that holistic, consecrated space of being one, right? If I sit and compare with you, or you compare with someone else, and we're all just doing that, there's no space for just calm and peace and connection.
At the same time, it takes a lot of courage and faith to step out and kind of go against these ideas
Yes.
and go against literally like this industry, right? And so what do you say to someone who's like, I need that courage, I don't know where to find it?
So one of the things that I like to do is I say, I want you to think about somebody who has done that they just don't care. They just don't care. How do you feel about that? And either they're going to go to a space of how dare they, or I want that so badly. And to just feel that longing, that like just longing for something else that will just make you complete. That's what they feel.
Yeah.
If they are in that space of not being like, how dare they, right?
I love that you said that. Wait, did you have more to the thought? Well, I met someone like that once. The like a couple days before I came out publicly. This is like super random and just like weird, but I guess it's probably a week before my Deseret News article went live. But I was in Nigeria and I was stuck.
Of course, where else would you be?
Right. I was stuck in this hotel because there was like political unrest. And I was like, well, I'm going to be here for an indeterminable amount of time. So I guess I'm just going to go to the swimming pool. And I was like really worried about like, if this gets approved, if this goes out, I don't know what's going to happen. And I met this lady and I didn't have sunscreen. And she was like a white lady there. And I was like, hey, do you have sunscreen? And she's like, yeah, I do. And I was just talking to her and we kind of hit it off and I was sharing some of this. And she's like, look at this. She took off her hat and she's completely bald. And she was like, do you know why I'm bald? And I was like, I don't want to answer this. Like, I'm not going to, like alopecia, cancer, I'm not stepping into this. And she's like, I got hot. And I was like, I'm going to shave my hair because it's bugging me. And I was like, this woman literally does not care.
Yeah.
She does not care what anyone else thinks. And she just like, I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm bald. I'm out here. We're going to be stuck in this hotel. I'm not going to be hot. And for some reason, I was just like, I want to be more like that. Like and she was beautiful in her like weird baldness. She was awesome.
Yeah.
And that honestly kind of gave me the courage. Once I got the green light, I was like, yeah, I'll run the article.
Do it.
And so I like that you said that. That's great advice. Like think of someone who encapsulates that courage.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like it.
Yeah, as you guys were talking, the thought that came to me was like, what can I put into practice to better love my body? And the thought that came to me was what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, judge not lest ye be judged. Yeah. And I think if I'm looking at other people with kindness and compassion, not judging their body, I will be less judgmental of my own.
Yeah.
And maybe I could just notice ways that people are beautiful and just be more mindful of that and attentive to that, so that then I'll be even kinder to myself.
That's beautiful. It's all there. It's all in the sermon. This is a good sermon.
Yeah, because I wonder, like, if you had just seen that woman walking down the street, what would you have thought about her? As opposed to, like, you knew her and then...
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's awesome. I want to be her.
Well, and I think that is just such a good perspective of like, oh yeah, she was so cool, but what would I have thought? Of recognizing that our bodies are it's just a thing.
Yeah, like you don't judge your grandma's body. You just love grandma.
I just remember touching her skin and being like, why is your skin so soft? And she's just like, because I'm really old. It's just well worn in.
It's like when you crinkle paper enough and it turns like velvety.
Her skin was so soft. It was so nice to just snuggle in with her.
And again, that's going back to like all the child stuff, like put off the natural man, become as a child. Like that's what it means. It's beautiful. I like that.
Yeah, there's this video that you've probably seen about these little kids. Like, if you could change one thing about your body, what would you change? Like, I wish I had wings. I wish I could fly. Like, I wish I were blue. And then they ask teenagers and adults, like, well, I wish I had a different nose. And, you know, and like becoming like a child means like just being happy you're alive.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and just being able to see like how my body presents in this world, it's just a thing. It really is. It's the same thing as eye color and hair color, and that even there is a genetically predisposed weight that people are supposed to be at, and that our bodies work optimally in that, and we're supposed to be there. We can change it just like we can change our hair color, but like it grows back in.
The roots will grow.
It grows back in. And so your body's always going to fight to go back to your set point. Always. And so we can change it, we can alter it, but it'll come back. And so if we can just start believing like bodies are just the way that they are, and it doesn't mean anything about the person, because there's so many social stigmas for people that are in larger bodies of like, they are fat, they are lazy, they are this. And it's like, have you seen these people live their lives? Most people aren't lazy. Most people should be more lazy. We need more of that, but it's just how they're shaped.
Yeah. Again, like principles of proximity takes away shame. Yeah. Or judgment.
If there's someone listening right now who is feeling like, I want to love myself, it just seems so impossible. What message would you give to that person who's like, I just want to love myself, I just don't know how?
And so we're very good as people at being very black and white, right? And that sometimes when I am working with somebody who's struggling with an eating disorder, just as an example, that they'll be like, I hate my body. I'll be like, all of it? Every inch, every hair, every single thing. And so I will take them through like, okay, how do you feel about your hair? Oh, it's thin. I hate it. Okay, what about your forehead? I don't care. Like, it's just a forehead, right? And so we start going through those things and recognizing that things are much more nuanced than we actually believe. And so taking that inventory and being able to see the good in things that we deem bad. A good example is like that introvert versus extrovert. Extroversion is definitely celebrated and introversion is not. And as a true extrovert, I will tell you there are some major consequences of being an extrovert.
I agree.
Would you agree with this, Charlie?
Yeah.
And that, you know, it took me a long time, well into my 20s, to realize, oh, I have, you know, 1,000 Facebook friends, because that's what was cool back then, right?
Is it not cool anymore?
I think it's
I don't
what
think I've been on Facebook in 4 years.
I think it's what the old people
Okay.
use, right? So, like, I can have all of that, but how many deep, meaningful relationships did I have at that time? And I had to take inventory and look at like, oh, I'm investing in these superficial relationships instead of these ones that are like my ride or die friends that are still my friends. And I switched my focus. And so being able to see some of those things of like, okay, that might have been glorified by a lot of people, but there were issues with it. And there's some beautiful things about introversion, like really, truly beautiful. And so finding those spaces and then things, you know, oh, I could actually work on this. But one thing I would say is take it small, little, one goal at a time. So if it's specifically body image, I have clients try wearing clothing that they have rules against. So sometimes it's, I will never wear short sleeves. I will only wear long sleeves because I don't want people to see how my arms look. And so I have them wear short sleeves and I'll say, did you die? Did you die? And they'll say, surprisingly not, because they truly think.
Did anyone else?
Nope. I'm like, did anybody say like, whoa, hate your arms there? And they're like, they didn't even notice. I'm like, yeah, they didn't even notice. And so just kind of pushing yourself in those really, really small little ways to just dip your toe in and experiment and see. And then also knowing that you would never judge someone else the way that you judge yourself. And so when clients will say like, well, I'm this, this, and this, I'm like, would you ever say that about your friend? Or how would you feel if like your friend said those things about themselves? I would be devastated. I would be so sad because I love them so much. And so we just say, we got to befriend ourselves. We've got to love, recognize our flaws, be able to take accountability when we make mistakes, but also have compassion for that.
Yeah.
I just want to be like so grateful for like the people's bodies that I interact with. Like, but I think about my mom who has advanced Alzheimer's and she's not as pretty as she used to be. I mean, she doesn't get nice haircuts anymore. She doesn't do makeup. She's really frail. She doesn't wear anything cute. Like all of her clothes are very practical. And I just love being able to hold her hand and hug her and like rub her back. Like I just love being able to like connect with her physical body. And even though it's, you know, broken and falling apart, you know, and I just, I don't want to view anyone's body as like a barrier to loving them.
Yeah.
And I think my judgments have been a barrier to loving people and sometimes loving myself as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think we do have a lot of rules that govern how we act, how we show up, how we present ourselves, that can get in the way of those truly beautiful moments of connection. And that, physical connection, especially with caretakers or people that we love, releases so much oxytocin, which is the love brain juice, right? It releases so much of that. And so just holding her hand is just healing. It is life. It is goodness. And to just think like, she doesn't have a manicure, right? It's just so ridiculous and doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because whatever's happening in your brain is going to happen whether or not they look good or not. And it's just about being there and loving someone and allowing them to love you back, which sometimes is the hardest because you can't understand why they do.
Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time, your expertise. You are the perfect person to have on for this conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Tell us, or tell the listeners where they can find you. Like, tell us about your practice.
Yeah, so I own Evergreen Therapy Collective. We have locations in American Fork and Cache County. And we specialize in eating disorders, body image, LGBTQ, neurodivergence, which is ADHD, autism, infertility, lots of women's issues, anxiety, depression. You got it. We can probably treat it. But we do have a lot of very compassionate and loving therapists, such as Charlie yourself.
Sydney's my boss.
Yeah, I made him make me come on this. I was like, let me come and speak.
No, I was like,
very
please,
gracious.
like this came up and you're perfect. So
Yeah, well, it's something I'm very deeply passionate about. So that's really our practice. You can find us just on the interwebs. And then I also train therapists in how to treat eating disorders. So if therapists are listening, they're like, this is something I want. My business is called The Eating Disorder Consultants, and so you can find us there. And we've got some trainings and really fun things coming up that we're doing, so it's good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was
My
an
pleasure.
amazing hour.
Mm-hmm.